Hi, my name is Tony Neighbors, and I am the Everett Housing Authority's Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This is the final video of a three-part series where I define diversity, equity, and inclusion, and explain why these concepts are so important to our work here at EHA. In this video, we're going to talk about inclusion. Inclusion, in my opinion, is the most exciting of the three words. This is where the rubber hits the road and how organizations come to channel the full value of diversity. Inclusion is the way that diversity gets its power and leads to organizations being more creative than they ever could have imagined. According to the Diversity Journal, inclusion is putting diversity into action by creating an environment of involvement, respect, and connection where the richness of ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives are harnessed to create value. Harnessed to create value, yes. Renee Myers, who is Netflix's Vice President of Inclusion Strategy, has one of my favorite ways of phrasing this. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Other variations I've seen are inclusion is being asked to choose the music, or inclusion is being asked to be on the party planning committee. Whichever flavor you prefer, the common denominator is that inclusion is an action word, not simply a state of existing or just being in the room. Inclusion is the activator of diversity. It involves sharing influence and power. It creates space for diverse perspectives to be heard and utilized. Inclusion at its best specifically looks for new angles. It welcomes contrast and disagreement. And that's because inclusion recognizes that questioning assumptions is the best way to innovate and discover the best solutions to a given challenge. Fostering a culture of diversity that is intentionally inclusive also positions organizations and groups to be more agile in their thought processes, which helps them more quickly prepare for future or unexpected challenges. Inclusion requires diversity to be present and valued at all levels of an organization. Here are 5 examples of what embracing a culture of inclusion does. Number 1, inclusion moves diversity from window dressing to game changing. Many organizations know that diversity is valuable but have no plan to take any further steps once there are people of color in the organization. There has to be intentionality in giving people of color and people of other marginalized identity groups opportunities to contribute their voices, to lead, to be meaningfully involved in organizational decisions. If an organization has, say, 50% people of color on their staff, which is a pretty good number, but none of them has a leadership role and none of them are able to impact the operations of the organization has missed an opportunity to fully benefit from this diversity. Number 2, inclusion makes staff feel valued, empowered, and activated. In general, even outside of a racial context, it's often a great idea to give staff at all levels opportunities to provide feedback and contribute their ideas. Encouraging inclusion communicates to staff that their brilliance matters, their creativity matters, their perspectives and experiences matter. When employees are ignored or discouraged or even blocked from contributing new ideas or providing constructive critique, the consequences can be devastating to morale and productivity. But on the other hand, staff tend to apply more effort, thought, and care into their work when they can see that their organization values their perspectives. Number 3, inclusion encourages staff to bring their whole selves to the organization. Too often when we are in organizations that are homogenous or in organizations that are not inclusion-minded, there can be a pervasive office culture that leaves little room for difference. Some people may enter this type of organization enthusiastically at first until they discover that their way of being, whether it be their ethnic background, religious expression, communication style, or accent, is dismissed or frowned upon. This usually isn't a blatant message, but there can be really subtle ways that staff teams or leadership communicate that assimilation is necessary for surviving in the office. And this can feel suffocating for people who don't normally function in those ways. On the other hand, offices that actively champion the value inherent in difference, they create an environment where employees feel unencumbered, accepted, and free. This has an incredibly positive impact on productivity, as well as the likelihood of being able to get the full benefits of diversity. Number 4, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. Inclusion causes conflict. This may be surprising to hear me say as someone who's passionate about inclusion, but yeah, it's true. When you work with a group of people from different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, there will inevitably be conflict. This is why cross-cultural communication skills, empathy, and respect are critical. Staff must learn the tools needed to confront their own implicit biases and societal privileges. Staff must also gain awareness of their specific cultural lenses and the fact that there are others who have different and perfectly valid ways of understanding the world. And staff must learn about how their preferences or styles of communication can sometimes have unintended and even harmful consequences for people from other cultures. This helps us to be vigilant so we can avoid committing microaggressions. This awareness does. And number 5, however, and counterintuitively, this is good and productive conflict when led well. Respectful disagreement between people with different cultural lenses can create new levels of depth in professional relationships and is the vehicle that leads to innovation. As these new communication muscles are strengthened and cross-cultural inclusive discussion and disagreement are practiced and normalized, diverse organizations get better and better at finding the best, most creative solutions to projects in less and less time. This requires self-awareness and humility and a willingness to welcome disagreement and pushback when working together. We must do so with the knowledge that ultimately we're all on the same team and that this process will strengthen us as an agency even when it gets uncomfortable sometimes. Having a strategy and culture of inclusion is what separates a visually diverse organization from a cross-culturally effective organization that's fully harnessing the strength of its staff. This process isn't easy, and there can certainly be growing pains associated with learning new ways of expression, empathy, and communication. But the benefits we can gain connected to our team's communication skills, office morale, and quality of service to our residents cannot be overstated. Being intentional and continuing to grow in staff diversity and representation, as well as making sure that we are bringing all these perspectives to the table of influence, will be vital to the future of our agency. Let's learn together. Let's grow together, and let's work together as we continue this awesome work of serving our community and undoing racism.